Chapter 1 Wake Up, it's March. It's the day when school starts. Yuan-bei had a dream. He dreamed that the 26-year-old himself traveled to the college entrance examination room, and before he had time to be happy, he saw the papers that were handed out, and he didn't know a single question. He was so anxious that he was sweating all over, and woke up with fright. There are still 99 days before the college entrance examination. You all understand the importance of the college entrance examination without me telling you, especially those students whose goal is to pay more money. You must work harder during this time. In her 30s, Yang Hung-mei, with thin lips and thin eyes, was standing on the podium for the new semester mobilization meeting. She had a loud voice and scanned the entire classroom with sharp eyes, and continued, "If you have the conditions at home, don't be stingy with supplements at this time. The college entrance examination is like 1,000 horses crossing a single plank bridge. Every time your genetic value increases, you can squeeze out countless people. Of course, don't just focus on the strength of your genes. Also very important, Yuan-bei just woke up, still turning his head with his head covered, and couldn't hear anything clearly. Gene strength? What's that? Biology class? Looking at this familiar classroom and the familiar woman on the podium in a daze. Isn't this my high school head teacher? Yuan-bei woke up immediately. What's the situation? Am I still dreaming? His eyes moved forward a little dull, and his eyes suddenly widened. On the upper right corner of the blackboard, a row of large characters was clearly written, "There are still 99 days before the college entrance examination." The number 99 was bolded with red chalk thoughtfully. Looking at this string of words, Yuan-bei was stunned. It's been 8 years since I graduated. What the is it that I have to take the college entrance examination all of a sudden? After pinching himself hard to make sure he wasn't dreaming, Yuan-bei gradually calmed down. Quietly took out the phone. Through the unclear mirror, Yuan-bei saw a clean and delicate face. Exactly what he looked like when he was 18 years old. Reborn. He was reborn 8 years ago, when he was preparing for the college entrance examination. Yuan-bei was stunned. It's not that he didn't think about rebirth, but he never thought that it would really happen to him. Yuan-bei struggled for 3 minutes before accepting it frankly. Anyway, rebirth is not time travel. My parents and friends are all there, and I can still grasp some opportunities. This is a proper way for God to let you be a scientist. You just hang up and it's over. Today is the first day of school, and it is also a mobilization for you. This year's winter vacation is half a month off. You are tired, and we are too. Yang Hung-mei was still chattering on the top, but, tight now, loosen later. When you go to college, you will be much more relaxed. I believe in your evil. Yuan-bei secretly said below, anyone who has gone to college knows. Going to college is even more tiring. The mobilization for the start of school is the same old routine, there is nothing to say. Yuan-bei was thinking at this time, whether he should go back and persuade his parents to sell the family house and go to Beijing to buy a toilet. This is also a guaranteed profit without losing money. But I guess he will be beaten to death. This is related to your future life path. The college entrance examination is not the only choice, but it must be the most reasonable choice. The road of the awakened is good, but it also has to face many difficulties and dangers. Everyone's talent is different, which determines the difference in each person's life path. Students with low genetic strength should seize the last 100 days to improve their performance in cultural subjects, and they will not be worse than the awakened ones in the end. Yang Hung-mei said, and then glanced at the top students in the class. Don't be too ambitious, and don't underestimate yourself. The latest research this year shows that as the number of dimensional worlds increases, the source force density in the air is also increasing. So no matter what happens now, in the future, everyone has the opportunity to unlock the gene lock and become an awakened one. As soon as Yang Hung-mei said this, the class immediately began to discuss in a low voice. Yuan-bei was taken aback. Source force? Gene strength? Gene lock? Awakened? Dimensional world? What is this all about? He suddenly felt something was wrong in his heart, as if he took the wrong script. At this time, a tingling pain suddenly came in my mind, and then a large wave of memories emerged one by one. Yuan Bei's expression immediately brightened, sometimes confused, sometimes shocked. It's too late to say, but in fact, these memory fusions only happened within a short minute. After absorbing them, Yuan Bei looked at these familiar classmates with a strange expression. It's not his original Earth at all. According to his memory, the Earth seems to have changed a bit strangely. I don't know when, there have been a lot of different dimensional world gates on the Earth. Behind these different dimensional worlds is another completely different new world, with all kinds of strange creatures in it. These creatures are keen to invade, and the human world is the target of their invasion. But fortunately, most of the different dimensional worlds are not stable, and sometimes they even disappear by themselves. With the addition of human guns and hot weapons, they have been maintained until now. The emergence of the dimensional world also led the Earth he was on to another completely different path. With the passage of time, an element called source force in the dimensional world has gradually covered the entire Earth, subtly changing human genes and physical fitness until it can be absorbed gradually. After years of research and evolution, human beings have summed up a way to become stronger. Since then, the Earth is moving towards the era of martial arts for all. Absorb the source power, break the gene lock, absorb the gene nucleus in the body of the alien animal, and break through the shackles of the human body. Of course, not everyone can change their destiny through martial arts. Most people don't have the talent for martial arts, so practicing it can only get twice the result with half the effort. However, there is still a kind of genius in this world. They are born martial arts wizards. Even before they practice, the gene lock has been unlocked, and they can have all kinds of strange abilities. It is called the innate awakener. You say you are angry or not? In Yuan Bei's memory, except for the fact that the world has become a little more fantasy, no matter whether it is his classmates or relatives, nothing has changed at all. This is also something to be thankful for. Otherwise, if Yuan Bei were to call someone parents, he would be speechless. Interesting. Yuan Bei was not frightened by this inexplicable development, but rather excited. If everything remains the same, he will have nothing to gain, and it will be difficult for him to make greater changes. No matter how great it can be better than the previous life, but how strong can it be? Furthermore, who would not dream of being a strong man? Who wouldn't want to master some superpowers? After understanding the current situation, Yuan Bei began to plan for the future. His genetic strength should not be high, so according to Yang Hongmei, improving his grades is what he mainly needs to do now. As a rookie who has entered the society, he knows the importance of a diploma. His goal is very clear: there are 3 months left in the time, and during the college entrance examination, it is enough to pass the undergraduate exam. Thinking like this, he casually found a math book from the high pile of desks. No matter what, he still has a little background in mathematics. But the imagination is quite good. The reality of the problem is so skinny. After watching for 3 minutes, 3 philosophical questions appeared in Yuan Bei's mind. What is this? What is this again? What is that? Bite the bullet and looked at it for a while. Yuan Bei felt a little pain in his head. Yuan Bei thinks that he may think too highly of his education level, and the goal is a bit big. As the saying goes, nothing is difficult in the world as long as you are willing to give up. He thought decisively. Or, college is okay? I heard that the computer major of Hushi College is also quite good. It's just a rebirth, and it's too bad to be a coder, right? What's up with the baldness addiction? Drib. Scanning templates. Scan complete. The system is turning on. The sign-in system is on. Yuan Bei? This is the arrangement? System. Yuan Bei called out cautiously in his heart. Shua. A virtual screen suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, which frightened Yuan Bei, but seeing that the people around him were normal, as if they couldn't see them, he felt relieved and looked closely. Above is a properties panel, host, Yuan Bei race, human gene, 35 recipes gene lock, not open skills, none not signed in. This virtual screen is extremely simple, with only a few short lines. But it made Yuan Bei's eyes widen. Isn't this the sign-in system he created last night? What's the situation? You also followed through time travel? End of this chapter. Chapter 2 Sign-in System. Sign-in System. It was the plugin that Yuan Bei made with a burst of liver last night, and it was also the culprit for his time travel. Party A's father this time is a game company that has just been established. They have launched a new mobile game, which is a mixture of all kinds of messy things, and it is made as a joke. Yuan Bei played it a few times for work, and it was really dizzy and incomprehensible. In order to increase the playability of the game, Party A's father requested to build a daily sign-in system. After sign-in, he can get a chance to draw a lottery. Yuan Bei worked hard for several nights and revised several versions before finally knowing what Papa A said about the so-called playability. Is probably, let them go about their business, if we can get good things, we will lose. Put that winning rate back a little bit. Change the things in the prize pool. So, he stayed up all night and changed all the items above bronze in the prize pool, leaving only a pile of white bars, and the odds of winning the prize that Ou Shen couldn't help but. Game company. Who doesn't know that it's impossible for a white ticket to become stronger? In other words, now his self-made everyone is a non-Keef version of the sign-in system has become his golden finger? Yuan Bei was helpless. But talking is better than nothing, so is the golden finger still a human being? Sign in. Thinking of this, Yuan Bei didn't hesitate, thinking silently in his heart. Sign in successfully. Drawing +1 2 lines of words suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, and Yuan Bei showed a gleam of joy on his face. It really works. When I looked again, I saw the word not checked in that was originally lit, but now it has dimmed, and it has become the word signed in that cannot be selected. And under that, there is an extra word lottery shining red. Lucky draw. Swish swish swish. It seems that countless things flashed before the eyes, and then stopped in vain. Experience +10. Yuan Bei seems to have expected it a long time ago. After all, he designed this thing. The minimum reward is 10 experience points. The Africans just obediently take their experience and roll away. Want skills? Want items? As the creator, Yuan Bei said, are you thinking about farting? But what's the use of this experience? Turn on the system. Above is a properties panel, host, Yuan Bei race, human gene, 35 party, 0/1, plus gene lock, not open skills, none experience, 10. Yuan Bei was stunned. If he remembered correctly, the system should have changed. After the gene, there is an extra experience bar and a plus sign. Gene value, he knows, is a kind of body unit made by the world. But 35 square meters is too low, right? If he remembers correctly, the average high school student's gene value should be around 50 square meters, right? Yuan Bei scratched his head helplessly. Okay. The hair is still thick. Carefully clicked on the plus sign behind the gene. The gene slowly changed, and in an instant, 35 squares became 36 squares. Gene, 36 parties, 0/10, okay. Why does it feel like nothing has changed? Seems to be a little more energetic. After feeling it for a long time, he didn't realize that he was a little different, so he quietly pulled the netizen Zhang Peng who was sitting next to him to catch up on sleep, and let him see what was different about him. Look, what's different about me? Zhang Peng was a little annoyed with getting up, his eyes were still dazed, so he gave him a cold look. Handsome, handsome. Then I lowered my head on the table and went back to sleep. Yuan Bei. After thinking about it, he still didn't add more experience. After all, there are 9 experience points left, even if all of them are added, the increase will not reach 37 squares. But this experience bar has been doubled 10 times, but it's okay. Stop being a human? Since this is the case, don't add it for now. Let's talk about it when we go back. Closer to home. He picked up the math book on the table again, and continued to read. Okay? After taking a few glances, Yuan Bei was suddenly stunned. He seems to understand? Those originally complicated formulas seem to have become simpler at this time. Although it is still a bit strenuous, he still has a clear feeling of understanding. Is this the effect of experience points? Or is that 1 point of experience working? Try it as soon as you say it. Yuan Bei searched for a long time in the pile of books on the table, and finally found the mathematics in the first year of high school that was pressed at the bottom. Okay. The book is very new. Wrote a name. Yuan Bei didn't want to complain about his learning attitude, so he picked up the math book and started flipping through it. Function? Simple. Geometry? Simple. How is it so simple? Yuan Bei seemed to have the help of a god, basically flipping through the book for a few glances, and under the rapid operation of his brain, all the complicated knowledge points entered his brain as if they had been mastered. Compared with the difficult high school mathematics, the mathematics knowledge of the first year of high school is much simpler. He also has some background to some extent, not to mention that he is now in the state of gaining experience, even more so. Ha ha ha. The sound of flipping a book sounded. Math experience +1, math experience +1. Yuan Bei felt that when he was reading a book, the logo in this game would appear in his head. By the time Yuan Bei felt that it was starting to be a bit strenuous, he had already read all the compulsory courses 1 to 4 of high school mathematics, and had the illusion that I am a top student. At this time, Drib. 10 experience points have been used. Any more hints? Yuan Bei rubbed his head, raised his head, and already understood in his heart that this should be the second way to use experience points. Can add efficiency to something? It is equivalent to giving a gain buff. I don't know when, it's already the last class, and there is a teacher he looks familiar standing on the podium. The 10 points of experience lasted for more than 2 hours. Looking at the time, Yuan Bei understood. It has been a long time since he has been in this state of learning madness, and suddenly he remembered that he hadn't studied anything seriously for a long time. With the help of experience points, the boring learning process turned out to be a thrill of breaking through. It's like playing a game. The originally indestructible checkpoints are broken by his overwhelming impact. Nothing can replace the sense of inner satisfaction. Looked up at the line on the upper right corner of the blackboard, 99 days until the college entrance examination. The corner of Yuan Bei's mouth curled up. He was afraid that the time would be too late, but now it seems that it is more than enough. I just don't know if this experience value can be used in other places. After all, the cost is heavy, and it seems that there are certain requirements for the genetic level. If it is too low, it may be wiped out directly in one round. Woke up. Yuan Bei was thinking. Zhang Peng, who was sitting next to him, came over and asked quietly, "Are you okay? Are you stunned by reading?" Zhang Peng was also terrified. When he just woke up, he saw Yuan Bei kept turning the pages of the book like a demon, calling out several times but still not responding, and patting him twice without responding. "It's okay, the math book is so good, I'm fascinated." Yuan Bei also quietly replied, and couldn't help laughing out loud as he spoke, as if he had thought of some beautiful formula. "Zhang Peng? Are you sick? Let's go to the Base War Alliance at night? I practiced the new alien species of Red Devil yesterday. It's fierce. Take you to fly. Yuan Bei, no, I want to go back to study. Zhang Peng's face was full of question marks, are you kidding me? I invite, please drink water. Yuan Bei, I have something to do at home today, so I really can't go. Why don't you believe the truth? Am I someone who is short of money? I don't even have an internet fee. Yuan Bei just read it, and now he has $3 left in his pocket. It's hard to imagine that a grown man only has $3 in his pocket. Pulsation can't afford woolen nets? Zhang Peng clicked his tongue regretfully, okay, let's do it next time. Yuan Bei nodded slightly. The Genetic War League, the full name is Gene Warrior League, which is similar to the League of Legends on Earth, and it is also popular all over the world. He and Zhang Peng are both senior internet addicts, and they have been playing this game all the time. His eyes were full of taste, and he took a closer look at this friend who hadn't seen him for a long time. Since the first year of high school, the two have been sitting at the same table. It just so happens that they are not very good at studying, and they both love surfing the internet, so they naturally got mixed up. It's always been a bad relationship. I remember when his bad luck broke out, the front row was a big guy in the college entrance examination, he hugged his thigh with his eyes, and barely got into the second book. As for Zhang Peng, he squinted his eyes, this guy has gone abroad to study. A real horse, reality taught him a good lesson. Money can do whatever it wants. When I was in college, I still kept in touch with each other often, and I waited until I graduated from college. The contact between the two became less and less, and they only heard from others that he inherited hundreds of millions of family property and married a beautiful wife. In the circle of friends, it can be said to be a winner in life. And he, sitting in a crowded office, was smoking a cigarette one by one and typing codes. Compared to this, he was foolishly playing around with others, so cute and silly. And now, judging from the memory in my mind, Zhang Peng's genetic value is also among the best in the class now, and he can easily hit 300 to 400 caddies with his bare hands. If he can unlock the first level gene lock, buy a gene nuclear fusion with his family's strength, learn genetic skills, and add a method of warfare, then he will be a real first level awakener. The two of them are people from two worlds. But it's not that people take him to play to harm him. After all, at this age, if you can play together, you must play together. Besides, who doesn't like to play when they are young? It's just a pity that I left a lot of regrets at the beginning, and I couldn't make up for it in the end. At first I thought, I want my family to live a good life, I want to chase after the most beautiful girl, I want to taste the taste of Lafayette in 1982, I want to drive a luxury car, I want to live in a luxury house. Sometimes I think that I should study hard at the beginning, and sometimes thinking that I should step into the society early to do business. But in the end, the parents are getting old and still working hard, the right hand has replaced love, and life has lost a lot of fun. In the end, there is nothing to do for a lifetime. He now looks back on the past, a little awakened and ashamed. In fact, all the regrets in the previous life seem to be that as long as you work a little harder, be a little more serious, and work a little harder, you will be able to succeed. Of course, it should be an illusion. Although the world is different now, it is a kind of luck to start everything again. Yuan Bei thought silently in his heart. This life. Live seriously. I don't want to be bald again. End of this chapter. Chapter 3 is the current plan, only Krypton Gold can go all the way after school. Yuan Bei, with Zhang Peng's unbelievable expression on his face, packed a few books and went home. Yuan Bei was reborn once, and his heart was very clear. He plans to make up all the cultural lessons as soon as possible. It was a difficult luxury at first, but now that he has daily experience points, it is nothing. However, you can't just rely on experience points to unlock, you have to work hard. Much in Yuan community. To be honest, Yuanbei has always doubted whether his residential complex is a national chain. He has seen such a residential complex called Mu Chun Yuan in many places. The entire community is basically half-old, neither new nor dilapidated. Following the familiar road, he soon returned to his home. Room 201, Building 13. Find out the key and open the door. The door is designed as a porch, and there is a solid wood shoe cabinet, which is not exquisite, and it was made by the old man himself. Looking at it again, it is the living room connected to the kitchen, a second bedroom and a master bedroom. The size of the entire room is 60 square meters. With such a layout, it can barely form a room with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. It looks more or less compact. It is just right for a family of 3, but he also has a younger brother who is in the first grade of junior high school. Fortunately, he is the younger brother, so there is no need to avoid suspicion between brothers. The two share the second bedroom. Speaking of this younger brother, he is a cute little fat man. Her small mouth is like smearing honey. When she was a child, relying on her own whiteness and fatness, she dared to cheat food and drink wherever she went. But when I grow up, it's not so good, and it becomes less and less cute. But the two brothers, no matter in the previous life or in this life, have always been very close even though Yuanbei did not take care of him. Say Cao Cao, Cao Cao arrives. Elder brother. A chubby little fat man with bright red hair on his head came out of the room following the sound, leaned against the wall, raised his head at a 45-degree angle, shook the red hair on his head, and putting his fingers in front of his eyes. A strong killing breath came over his face, and he said calmly, "Aren't you handsome? I'm the Bloodwing Madman. Yuanbei? Want to die? Believe it or not, I will smash it for you." It was only then that he remembered that his younger brother Yuan Zioxi was in the second grade of junior high school, and he kept saying things like "I am a god. I am a great devil. I want to save the world." Sometimes you have to put on some shameful poses, which makes people feel difficult to understand. Handsome. Yuanbei stretched out his thumb, with an approachable smile on his face. "Come here, come and show me your hair, it's so cool." Yuanbei felt that as an elder brother, it was necessary for him to correct his dangerous thinking. Yuan Zioxi didn't notice that something was wrong, and even approached him proudly. On the dinner table, the family sits around the table and eats. Yuan Zioxi looked at his father with a strange expression, and thought about it for a long time, but he didn't dare to complain that his brother kicked his blood hair hard, and bowed his head sullenly to eat. Yuanbei was in a complicated mood. Looking at the old parents, I can't tell the feeling in my heart. Mother Luoping works in a textile factory. She works long hours and is sedentary all the year round. She also has some problems with her lumbar spine. The factory does not pay the minimum pension insurance, and her monthly salary is only in the early 2000s. Father Yuanzong is working in a chemical factory, although the salary is higher, more than 5,000 a month. But the pollution from chemical factories is too strong. Several people in their factories died of cancer in their previous lives. Yuanzong Zheng naturally knew what was going on with this job, but there was nothing he could do. The two boys in the family were a great burden to this not-so-rich family, especially since both of them were still in school and needed money for everything. He doesn't dare to think about things that are too long-term. He just wants to wait for Yuanbei to go to college. After he graduates and works, the family's situation may be better. Yuanzong Zheng sighed slightly, and looked at the boss and second child sitting across from each other. None of them gave him peace of mind. Yuanbei also sighed slightly, only feeling that the burden on his shoulders was heavier again. Wanting to change the current situation of the family is not something he can do in the short term. Yuan Zioxi, what's the matter with your hair? Father Yuanzong Zheng squinted his eyes and asked coldly. 3 pairs of eyes stared at the past at the same time. Yuan Zioxi shrank her neck and said in a low voice, "This is a one-time use, it will fall off after washing. Where did you get the money for dyeing your hair? Luo Mu's question got to the point. No matter how you look at it, this little fat man's body shape really doesn't look like he saved money to dye his hair. I picked it up. Yuan Xiaopeng's words are so righteous. I'll wash it off later. The scene fell silent. My family knows about my own family affairs. My younger brother is indeed very good at picking up money. Sometimes he can pick up 5 or 10 yuan when he goes out for a walk, and the money is like having eyes, so he can run to his feet with all his strength. Only when I got home did I find that there was a piece of red money stuck to the gum on the sole of my shoe. Ever since he was a child, Yuan Bei had never seen this little fat man short of money. After the meal, Yuan Bei wanted to chat with his parents, but seeing their exhausted appearance, he also thought about it. One person returned to the house with a lot of worries. And Yuan Xiaopeng was ordered by him to wash off the red hair, otherwise he would have a blasting hammer. Night. In the cramped second bedroom. On the far right side of the room, there is a bunk bed, a table, and a pair of open wardrobes standing against the wall. These 3 pieces of furniture alone almost filled the room, leaving only one aisle for people to pass through. Yuan Xiaoxi was sitting on the lower bunk, rubbing her wet head, her hair had returned to black, muttering something like 30 years, holding her mobile phone and looking at something. Yuan Bei, who was sitting on the table and looking up information, heard it and said coldly. It's good to wash it off, but the family doesn't have that much money to buy you cement disco. Yuan Xiaoxi? What do I need cement for? Why should I play disco? Yuan Bei ignored Yuan Xiaoxi, put the phone aside, and rubbed his temples. The memory of the predecessor absorbed was incomplete after all. He checked the information on the internet just now and found that things were not as simple as he imagined. Leaving aside the dimensional space near the southern part of the city, there are many things that he has not considered before the college entrance examination. In the current era of genetic martial arts for all, cultural lessons are still very important, but one's own strength is also an important part of it. The total score of the college entrance examination is 700. The score of the physical test accounts for 100 of the points. The most deceitful thing is that there is also a merit-based admission policy. That is to say, even if Yuan Bei got full marks in the culture class, he got 600 points. However, a person who scored less than 500 points in the cultural class but got full marks in the physical test, the school will definitely give priority to the one with the stronger physical test. Even the grades in cultural subjects can be lower. No wonder Yuan Bei was so pessimistic. It's just because his current physical fitness is really bad. The gene value is only a pitiful 36 squares, which is basically the bottom index in high school. According to the standards of previous years, if you can score 20 points in the physical test, you will be considered high-ranking. After all, the average index of previous high school students was 53. And if you want to open the gene lock, the currently known lowest index to open the gene lock is only opened at 120 square meters. However, the opening of the gene lock cannot be quantified. It varies from person to person, and not everyone's body is the same. Some are higher, some are lower. But in summary, the higher the index, the better. Yuan Bei has been saving money all day without eating, just to surf the internet. Will his health be good? How does this compare with the animals that eat supplements? So, for the college entrance examination, not only did Yuan Bei have to improve his grades in cultural subjects within this 100 days, but his physical fitness was also a top priority. Yuan Bei frowned and thought. Experience points won't play a big role in the short term. After all, if you want to get a full score, you don't know how much experience points you need. Even if you add all of them later, the total amount is only 1000 points. Can it be raised to the average level? The value is still a problem, and it won't play a big role. Besides, he also needs experience points to make up for cultural lessons. So, Krypton Gold is the right way. Since ancient times, there has been a saying of poor literature and rich military, and it is even more so in modern times, and it has even become more serious, becoming rich cultural and military. Without money, it is difficult to move an inch. The so-called poor people can do nothing. Money. Need money. Yuan Bei wailed in his heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 4 Skill Deep Sleep, Bronze, the next morning. 5:30. Before dawn outside, Yuan Bei had already quietly gotten up. He climbed down carefully from the upper bunk, put on his clothes, and quietly left the house. After doing some warm-up exercises, Yuan Bei ran slowly along the street. Morning exercise. This is the plan Yuan Bei made last night after learning from the pain. This is also the most cost-effective method he can think of, and can slowly improve his physical fitness. After all, before the gene lock is turned on, the absorption of source power happens passively. The more you exercise, the faster you absorb it. Of course, there is also the indispensable Krypton gold part. Tonic. It doesn't matter if you don't mention this, the poor ghost will just run obediently and it's over. As an adult, especially after starting over, he clearly knows what he wants and is willing to act for it. To his surprise, although it was not early at 5:30, there were not many people doing morning exercises along the way. Most people are just practicing on their own, but there is no intersection. Yuan Bei also tried to run slowly at his own pace. An hour later, he slowly ran back to his home. His physical fitness is indeed a bit weak, and he is tired enough from just jogging. After taking a bath covered in sweat, my parents also got up. Host, Yuan Bei race, human gene, 36 squares, 1/10, gene lock, not open skills, none. After an hour of long distance running, the experience value of the gene value actually increased a little. Feel. It's easy to upgrade to 37 squares, right? But Yuan Bei also knew that it was because his genetic index was low now, so it was easier to upgrade. I'm afraid it won't be so easy later on. After knowing that Yuan Bei went out for morning exercises in the morning, the two parents were very pleased to praise him, and Yuan Bei felt a little embarrassed when he praised him. The two of them were not happy yet. They went to the second bedroom to wake up Yuan Zioxi, who hadn't woken up, and they just scolded him. Yuan Zioxi? Yuan Xiaopeng was sleepy, staring with question marks all over his face. His face was full of puzzlement. Who did I provoke? There was a trace of resentment in Yuan Bei's gaze. Yuan Bei doesn't care about this. Drib. Sign in successfully. Drawing +1. Yuan Bei sat on the table, and with a thought in his mind, sign in instantly dimmed. Just as he was about to draw a lottery, his brother's voice came over there. He responded, and was not in a hurry to draw a lottery. Brother, I have seen all your efforts. I, the Bloodwing Demon God, have decided to recognize you from today on. While brushing his teeth in the bathroom, Yuan Xiaopeng called Yuan Bei over. Yuan Bei? But, I can't lose weight. Yuan Xiaopeng spat out the foam in his mouth, as if he was still immersed in his Bloodwing Demon God character design, with a serious and pretended majesty on his face, and said in a low voice. Listening to what the parents said just now, they want him to go to morning exercises with Yuan Bei every morning and lose weight by the way. What kind of joke is this? Only women and jerks will lose weight. A real man should eat what ordinary people can't eat. Even if he is full of food, he should smile and eat 2 fruits after the meal. You're so fat, why don't you lose weight? Yuan Bei suppressed a smile, a little puzzled. He only remembered that his younger brother was always fat before he went to college. Hunger strike, running, taking medicine, using any method, no one can stop it. In the end, it was indeed successfully reduced, and half of the body collapsed. I saw Yuan Xiaopeng leisurely looking at Yuan Bei through the reflection of the mirror, with a trace of seriousness on his childish fleshy face, and said word by word, who will remember an ordinary skinny man? Yuan Bei? He really has question marks all over his face, so will someone remember an ordinary fat man? What kind of logic is this? As the blood-winged demon king, it doesn't matter if I have black hair. If I become a well-proportioned ordinary person, then what's the point of living? Yuan Zioxi turned his head suddenly, and said to Yuan Bei seriously. Yuan Bei, say less words that others don't understand in the future, and you won't be able to find a girlfriend. You have a lot of black hair. Yuan Bei rubbed Yuan Xiaopeng's head, there was no fluctuation in his heart, and he even wanted to laugh. Misunderstandings. With a thought in his mind, he chose lottery draw. Swish swish swish. It seems that countless things flashed in front of my eyes. Drib. Congratulations to the host, you have won the skill Deep Sleep, Bronze Experience plus 10, okay? Yuan Bei was stunned for a moment. What kind of is this? One shot into the soul? This winning rate is made by him. The winning rate of the bronze skill is set at 1 in 300,000 by him. This. Elder brother. Seeing that Yuan Bei suddenly stopped talking, Yuan Xiaopeng asked suspiciously. Yuan Bei came back to his senses, looked at his hand still on Yuan Zioxi's head, as if he understood something. Looking at Yuan Xiaopeng, he said seriously, Zioxi, I think the title of Bloodwing Demon King is not suitable for you. Yuan Zioxi? What do you think of the title of Emperor OU? No, the Emperor of Metaphysics, no, how about the enemy of metaphysics? Yuan Bei looked serious. Yuan Xiaopeng twitched the corners of his mouth. Although Yuan Bei couldn't hear it clearly, judging from the shape of his mouth, it seemed to be garbage. It can be seen that he is not satisfied. But at this time, Yuan Bei has no time to take care of these, and hastily turned on the system. Host, Yuan Bei race, human gene, 36 squares, 1/10, gene lock, not open skill, deep sleep bronze, 0/5000, plus skill description, when the target is unprepared, it can quickly enter a deep sleep. The effect depends on the target situation. Note, whiteboard skill sleepy advanced skill. Sign in lottery draw experience, 10 Yuan Bei? What the kind of skill is this? Kind of funny, right? Coaxing children to sleep magical skills? Yuan Bei's head hurts a bit, and now he suddenly wants to travel back and grab the programmer who designed the game to have a good chat. He remembered that most of the bronze and whiteboard skills were these weird things. However, the experience of the basic method has increased a bit. This should be the effect of the morning exercise. According to this calculation, running for 5,000 days. When he is 30 years old, he will be able to unlock the gene lock. Yuan Bei is not too little, after all, it is enough to be able to see his progress intuitively. Besides, just long-distance running can grow, so what about other more clever methods? I'm afraid there will be more. As for skills, although he really wants to try it now, but after looking at his parents and younger brother who has finished washing, he still gives up. It's just that he looked at Yuan Xiaopeng with dangerous eyes. My younger brother is likely to be the legendary Ou Shen. The tidy Yuan Xiaopeng was in a panic when he was eating in the morning, and after eating 5 buns, he turned his and hurried out. After breakfast, Yuan Bei got on the bus and arrived at school soon. Along the way, he kept thinking about how to make some quick money, but after thinking about it for a long time, he didn't realize that it's too difficult to make quick money if you don't have the resources and ability. You can't be a nanny for someone, right? When a child cries at night, he throws a skill in the past. No matter how you think about it, it's a bit ridiculous. Chenan No. 1 Middle School. This is also a key high school, but the small place rarely pays attention to 985, 211 and the like. It is already excellent to be admitted to a university. Entered the classroom of Class 2, Class 3, of senior high school, and the seats were basically full. Zhang Peng had been waiting for him long ago, his eyes lit up when he saw him, and before Yuan Bei could sit down, he quickly blew away. Yuan Bei, you lost a lot yesterday. What is the big loss? Yuan Bei asked in doubt. Do you know how many points I scored yesterday? Zhang Peng's face was serious, but then his face changed, his face was like a chrysanthemum, and he exaggeratedly exclaimed, I'm going for silver. I finally jumped out of the bronze pit. If you go, we will go for it together. Excited like a child weighing 300 caddies. Yuan Bei was helpless. Did you book a room again yesterday? No, I'm not an Iron Man. Even if I have 5 livers, I can't handle it. Zhang Peng replied, I'm on a temporary basis. Yuan Bei also nodded quickly in agreement, yes, yes, yes. What time did you go back? Up to 6 o'clock. Zhang Peng said lightly. Yuan Bei? What's the difference between this and a lodging? It's not right for you to be a rich second generation. Do you have to be an internet-addicted teenager? These are not important. Zhang Peng became excited again, you don't know how fierce the new alien species is. Blood demon, this alien big move is like a blood pump, and the traces of blood will be filled up immediately. You know? Wearing a meat outfit, 5 people from the opposite side hit me, and I can't beat it. It's flesh damage and high, strong one. I guess this genetic skill is at least a platinum skill in reality. I've made up my mind. When my gene lock is unlocked, I'll buy a blood demon's gene core fusion. Even if it can't fuse the skills, it's a bloodthirsty passive. It's a life-saving skill. The platinum gene core is a bit expensive. The more Zhang Peng talked, the more excited he became, and his saliva was almost sprayed on Yuan Bei's face. Basic War League. This game is awesome. Much like League of Legends, it's also a tower defense game. It is divided into 2 camps, the warrior camp and the heterogeneous camp. The warrior camp is based on the human beings who have unlocked the 5 gene locks. The 5 gene locks represent 5 times of gene evolution and 5 times of gene fusion. Players can choose any 5 gene nuclei for fusion and patchwork, 1 passive and 4 active. Whether it is support, fighter, assassin, mage, shooter, or useless 5 different characters, players are allowed to choose, just like the real world. That's right. Just like reality. So Yuan Bei has always felt that this is a game made by the national power. Because, this game, is completely based on reality. Alien species like Gorfiend are real dimensional alien species. As a platinum heterogeneity, at least a strong person who has opened 5 gene locks can deal with it alone. And not only that, it is also a huge project to figure out all the details, skills, genes, and passives of this alien species and form a character template. Needless to say how many people will die in the process, but this game does allow ordinary people to know more clearly what kind of world they are in. Even ordinary people can experience the power of a warrior who has unlocked 5 gene locks in the game world, and the strength of the fusion gene core. It can be said that the merits are immeasurable. Among other things, the fusion and arrangement of the gene nuclei of the awakened in the game alone has benefited countless people. Avoided the tragedy of many people finally merging into 4 different images. But these have nothing to do with Yuan Bei now. You don't know how fierce my operation is. There is a pure meat monster on the opposite side, and the 5 genetic skills are all piled up with blood. It's disgusting, but who is the brother? My operation is fine. Facing Zhang Peng who was still chattering, Yuan Bei secretly mobilized, falling into a deep sleep in his heart. Next. Boom. Zhang Peng's eyelids suddenly drooped, his head lowered, and there was a muffled sound of collision. Seeing Zhang Peng, who was still in high spirits just now, without any warning, he closed his eyes and fell asleep directly on the table. Just after he fell asleep, the slight snore sounded, as if he had been asleep for an indeterminate amount of time. Even if there was a close contact between the head and the table, there was no tendency to wake up at all. Fuck! Yuan Bei's eyelids twitched wildly. He just wanted to try the skill, but he didn't expect the bronze skill to be so strong. How can this make people fall into deep sleep quickly? Sleeping pills are not so fast, are they? End of this chapter. Chapter 5 Ways to Make Money. Host, Yuan Bei. Race, Human Gene, 31/36 squares, 1/10, Gene Lock, Not Open Skill, Deep Sleep Bronze, 1/5000, plus Skill Description, when the target is unprepared, it can quickly enter a deep sleep, 300s, Experience, 10. The 5-minute cooling time consumes 5 gene points. Yuan Bei looked at the time counting down after falling deeply into sleep, and felt that compared with its effect, it was not too long. However, the gene value has decreased by 5 points. It seems that he understands what the gene value is. Blue bar? But the consumption is not too much, at least he doesn't feel any sudden weakness in his body. But, seeing that Shen Shen's experience gained a bit, he was a little surprised. He always thought that this skill level could only be increased with experience points. It turns out that as long as it is used on people, experience will be generated. 5,000 experience points if he uses it non-stop, he can upgrade in half a year. A bold idea suddenly appeared in Yuan Bei's mind. The effect of the bronze level is already so strong, so if it is upgraded to silver, wouldn't it be, you can sleep with whoever you want? Not right. Do you want to let whoever sleeps? Which invented this skill? What does he want to do? It's just too erotic, too good, right? Yuan Bei silently praised the programmer in his heart. Looking at Zhang Peng, who was fast asleep, Yuan Bei didn't care about him anymore. Let him nourish his liver. This is also good, so as not to buzz in my ears after waking up. He's a man going to college. Games or something, where are the textbooks interesting? Picking up a book of compulsory mathematics 4, Yuan Bei concentrated on the book and began to read it. Math Experience +1. Math Experience +1. With the convenience brought by the hack, Yuan Bei quickly sank into the ocean of knowledge. Countless high school mathematics knowledge was like water meeting a sponge, constantly squeezing into his head. Fortunately, Yang Hongmei is not a teacher with a strong sense of responsibility. A student like him who was given up early can do whatever he wants as long as he doesn't affect others in class. So no one bothered him. 2 hours go by quickly, even more so when you're immersed in something. Drib. 10 experience points have been used. The 10 experience points were declared exhausted soon, and the feeling of smoothness disappeared without a trace. More or less need to start thinking. But compared to the beginning, his reading speed at this time is already ridiculously fast. After all, 20 points of experience is enough to lay a solid foundation for him. Looking at the last half of the math electives left, Yuan Bei continued to read patiently. Another hour passed. By the time the school bell rang, Yuan Bei had already read all the mathematics in high school, and finally reviewed it again. Mathematics, the strategy is complete. Yuan Bei exhaled lightly, his heart jumping with joy. It only took him 2 days from the time when Monk Zhang was puzzled to understand the mathematics in high school. He even felt that if he was asked to do a high school math paper now, he could do as many points as he got. About this, Yuan Bei just wanted to say, hanging out is so happy. Thinking like this, he was going to eat in the school cafeteria. Entering the 3rd year of high school, Chenan No. 1 Middle School has used all means to increase the rate of admission, and has fully exploited the potential of students. It seems that the tighter the pressure, the better the students' grades. So the school leader waved his hand, and there was only 1 pitiful hour left for the hard-working third party's lunch break. At this point of time, don't even think about going home for dinner. Take the time to finish lunch at school and take a nap for half an hour is the right way. Looking at Zhang Peng, who was still sleeping next to him, this guy didn't seem to move at all. His head was still stuck on the table. If he didn't know the truth, Yuan Bei was afraid that he would die suddenly. Woke up. Pushed him. I fell asleep. Zhang Peng twisted his body, opened his eyes sleepily, and asked in astonishment. Maybe I'm sleepy. Yuan Bei said with a concerned face, you slept soundly this time. How can I fall asleep? Zhang Peng was confused and muffled. He felt that he was talking about how fine his operation was just a second ago. Why did he wake up from the table in a blink of an eye? Isn't this too fantasy? It should be too tired. Yuan Bei looked like he was solving problems for his brother. Probably. Zhang Peng thought for a while and said, it's too late these days. Okay. Yuan Bei nodded quickly. The two talked and walked all the way, and soon arrived at the cafeteria. After eating, they found an empty seat and sat down. There is nothing to say about big pot rice, even the best cooks are hard to do well, and the taste is relatively mediocre. Is that weird? Zhang Peng stuffed his mouth with meat, and said suspiciously, do you think that the accommodation can make people sleep more soundly? This effect seems to be more powerful than sleeping institutions. He felt that although he only slept for more than 4 hours, he felt as if he had slept for a whole day, and he was very energetic. Yuan Bei blinked. Sleep institution. You do not know. Zhang Peng thought for a while, it's just an organization that makes people sleep. So perfunctory. Yuan Bei was speechless. If he didn't see that he was still in the cafeteria, he would have thrown another sleep deeply on Zhang Peng's face. You really want to know? Zhang Peng originally thought Yuan Bei was just asking casually, but when he saw him insisting, he cleared his throat again. It's quite troublesome to talk about. You know about genetic training, right? In fact, if it is roughly separated, it can be divided into 3 steps. The first step is to exercise, also known as turning on genes. The second step is tonic, also known as supplementary genes. The third step is to absorb the source force, which is also the most difficult step. Continue. Yuan Bei listened very carefully. Although cultivation is no secret, it is very difficult to find news like unspoken rules if you don't deliberately search the internet. If Zhang Peng is willing to speak, he is naturally willing to listen. Because although everyone's aptitude is different, there is actually one thing that is the same. Before the first level gene lock is opened, ordinary people are very low in sensitivity to source power. However, studies have found that when people are in deep sleep, they are subconsciously guided, and their attraction to source power is far greater than when they are awake. So, that's what sleeping agencies do. Zhang Peng said a lot in a row, and quickly took a sip of water. Now you understand. Is this making money? Yuan Bei's eyes were bright, and he looked at Zhang Peng. Ahem. Zhang Peng almost choked after drinking water, and rolled his eyes. Of course it makes money. Is it good that a powerful sleep assistant can easily make hundreds of thousands a month? So much money. Yuan Bei couldn't help letting out a low cry. Making money by coaxing people to sleep? Is there still a king's law? Is there still a law? This is a tailor-made career for me. You don't think that a sleep aid can be done by just one person, do you? Zhang Peng glanced up and down at Yuan Bei with a strange expression. The most common sleep aid has at least opened the first level gene lock. Character, don't even think about it. Okay. Yuan Bei showed a puzzled expression and signaled Zhang Peng to continue talking. Do you know Sleepy Beast? Do not know. Zhang Peng was speechless and could only explain, this is a bronze beast, which is quite strange. Following Zhang Peng's explanation, Yuan Bei gradually understood. Sleeping beast is a kind of strange beast in the dimensional space. This kind of strange beast is extremely lazy by nature. Except for the time of eating, the rest of its life is almost spent in sleep. After killing, the gene nucleus taken out is also very strange. In addition to the necessary improvement of some physical fitness, there is only one genetic technology in it. Call Yan probably, just yawning at people can make people feel drowsy and finally fall into deep sleep. It sounds really good, but as long as there is a little stimulation, this sleepiness will be broken instantly. If you really use it to fight, I'm afraid it's lighting up the toilet you're looking for death. It can be said to be the chicken rib among the chicken ribs. It wasn't until the emergence of research results that this skill regained its second spring. Even so, only those awakened who know that there is no hope of advancing and just want to be rich will choose to absorb this kind of weak ability. Of course, the price of such a gene core, even a bronze-level gene core, is quite affordable. It's about the same as an ordinary whiteboard gene core. Therefore, gene nuclei similar to Sleepy Beast are affectionately called civilian gene nuclei by everyone. The number of sleep assistants is therefore very small. After all, not everyone has the courage to abandon themselves just after opening the gene lock. In the eyes of most people, absorbing the gene nucleus of the Sleepy Beast is giving up on oneself. After all, the improvement is weak, and it does not benefit one's own strength. However, once you hesitate and choose to absorb other gene nuclei, even if you regret it later, there will be no chance to do it again. After all, a gene lock can only absorb one gene core. Afternoon. In class, Zhang Peng looked at Yuan Bei, who had been frowning and fiddling with his mobile phone since he came back at noon, and secretly muttered in his heart. Lack of money. He didn't have many friends. Although his family background was good, the children of the same family background were busy practicing every day. There was really no one who was willing to spend 7 days with him in an internet cafe. The so-called no brothers, no alliance. He also knew about Yuan Bei's family conditions. In the past 2 days, he suddenly began to work hard. Zhang Peng also noticed it and was happy for his friend. Hey! Just as Zhang Peng was muttering, Yuan Bei heaved a sigh of relief and stuffed his phone into his pocket. Zhang Peng leaned over gently. Aren't you short of money? I still have some money, why don't you borrow it first? He watched secretly for a long time. Yuan Bei has been investigating the sleep agency, and thinking about his previous performance, he guessed that something happened to Yuan Bei. Yuan Bei was taken aback for a moment, then shook his head lightly, and said mysteriously, Zhang Peng, do you want to sleep? Zhang Peng? What? Snapped. Yuan Bei snapped his fingers lightly, and deep sleep was activated instantly. Boom! Another muffled sound. Zhang Peng fell into a coma again. End of this chapter. Chapter 6 Sleep Mechanism. Yuan Bei looked at Zhang Peng, who fell into a coma again, and shook his head slightly. By doing this, he revealed his secret to Zhang Peng, the tip of the iceberg. My biggest secret, the Sinan system. He would never say it no matter what, even if he was killed by the sun, he would never say it. Okay. It is so firm. The exposure of deeply sleeping is actually nothing. After all, there are indeed such people in this world. They will suddenly awaken some other abilities, and they are collectively called geniuses. He disguised himself as a genius who had awakened the ability of yawning, which could indeed solve his current troubles. Snap his fingers, which is a starting action he designed for himself. There is still a big difference between the skills in the system and the real awakened ones, and he has to shorten this difference as much as possible. The reason why Yuan Bei did this was naturally not to make Zhang Peng admire him or something. It was not in vain that he began to inquire about the sleeping agency since he was in class. After spending more than an hour, he finally understood something. Sleep agency is not that easy to join. Sleep assistants are not so easy to be. Among them, the minimum required level 1 awakened certificate is beyond Yuan Bei's ability to solve, let alone paying high membership fees, and after the follow-up income, there will be a rake from the organization. These are the mountains in front of him. What's more, people's hearts are unpredictable. As the old saying goes, it is necessary to guard against people. Who knows what this organization is like? Even if he shows them his abilities and enters this organization, there is no guarantee that there will be a leak, and when they find out that it is different, who knows if they will have any bad intentions. It's always good to be cautious. Exposure to whom is not exposure. At the very least, Zhang Peng is trustworthy. Zhang Peng came from a wealthy family, and he was the only son in the family. Zhang's mother, Yuan Bei, had seen a pampered and elegant woman, but Zhang's father had never seen him. But no matter how you think about it, a family that can educate a rich second generation like Zhang Peng who has no dandy atmosphere, no matter how you think about it, it will not be a villain. He showed it to Zhang Peng, that is, to Zhang Peng's family. A genius classmate is also a rare sleep aid. As long as he is a person with a little brain, he will not refuse to make friends with someone like him. It's not that he wants to make money from Zhang Peng's family. What he values more is this network. Among other things, as long as Zhang's father said a few words to him outside, as a sleep assistant, Yuan Bei naturally had a place to use his skills. He has nothing now and wants to change the status quo. If he doesn't take advantage of the situation at this time, then Yuan Bei is really a fool. Of course, this is also because Yuan Bei got European spirit today and got a skill, otherwise, he could only take it step by step. Looks like I have to treat Yuan Xiaopeng better in the future, just beat him a few times in the future. Yuan Bei thought happily. Yuan Bei was not idle in the afternoon, holding his physics book in his arms all afternoon. Although Newton's coffin slabs could not hold back as early as when humans could fly alone. But physics isn't all about gravity, either. Without the help of experience points, Yuan Bei had a hard time learning. Just before school was over, Yuan Bei called Zhang Peng up. Zhang Peng was still a little dazed when he woke up, but he reacted immediately, his face flushed, and he whispered excitedly, "You awakened early." Yuan Bei pressed his hand, "Loki, Loki. Awesome." How could Zhang Peng manage this? He kept saying awesome, awesome and amazing, which made Yuan Bei feel a little tired. You should learn Chinese more or less. Is it amazing to be rich? Don't need to lick people? Isn't this praiseworthy word too scarce? Don't spread the word about this. Yuan Bei interrupted Zhang Peng's next flattery, and said seriously. Okay. Zhang Peng wanted to ask why, but in the end he didn't open his mouth. After all, in his opinion, this matter is definitely something that should be publicized. It's a pity that he didn't know that Yuan Bei was just a fake genius, completely different from those real geniuses. Among other things, the effect of falling into a deep sleep is not comparable to the so-called yawning effect. Understand? If someone really wants to investigate, Yuan Bei is also afraid of causing other troubles. How is it, my sleeping effect? Yuan Bei asked knowingly. One word. Zhang Peng stretched out a thumb, amazing. Yuan Bei was helpless, you have no other words. Forget it, how about I be your sleep assistant in the future? Yuan Bei was also generous when he said this. Okay, that's great. Zhang Peng nodded again and again, don't let the fat and water go to outsiders' fields, my father is not short of money, so we brothers should give him a good fortune. Yuan Bei. If your father knew what you said, how would he feel? It's a matter of convenience, can I still ask for your money? Yuan Bei waved his hand and refused. This is really not a trick to play hard to get, and he also thinks so in his heart. I definitely won't give you money. Zhang Peng looked astonished, my dad will give you money. Yuan Bei was speechless for a moment. What he said actually makes sense. But, as an upright person, how could he demand money from his friends just because of these two sentences? Never let money tarnish our pure friendship. Zhang Peng turned around and showed a mysterious expression, you can make a price with him, he has plenty of money, let me tell you that the sleep assistant in my family is 150,000 a month, when the time comes, let's start a black hole together, hee, I have a skin that I've been looking at for a long time. 150,000. Yuan Bei's expression was dull, his eyes lit up, and he waved his hand. Skin? Easy to talk about. Which of us brothers is with whom? The two didn't talk for long when the school bell rang. After making an appointment with Zhang Peng to bring him news from his family tomorrow, the two parted ways. Touching the last $2 in his pocket, Yuan Bei still decided to save $1, running home. It's time to exercise. Mu Chun Yuan is a bit far from Jinan No. 1 Middle School. It takes half an hour by bus. Yuan Bei finally ran for more than an hour before returning home. I was really thirsty on the way, and I didn't save $1 in the end, so Yuan Bei bought a bottle of mineral water. He was so angry that he almost slapped himself. However, the experience value has increased by another 1 point, and I have reached the 36 square, 2/10, which is considered to be not in vain. Go home. Parents have also come back. He went to take a shower. He will wait a while to talk about the awakening. Such a good thing. Yuan Bei can hide it from anyone, but his parents can't hide it. After coming out of the shower, I saw Yuan Xiaopeng holding his mobile phone and giggling, his face squeezed like a flower. Yuan Bei sneaked up on it, and saw that it was a barrage website. This world may be due to the dimensional space, the development of science and technology is not slow at all, such as smartphones, barrage websites and other advanced things have appeared. 100 million swipes every day, those unforgettable ladies. 2. In the video, there is a short-haired woman in a strong outfit, with a cold face, a curvy figure, and a pair of long legs that are extremely flexible. She seems to be in a no man's land among the alien beasts, and the air is pumped with every punch and kick. The video seems to be a candid shot, but it is very clear. The woman does not look very old. She looks about 20 years old. She is a little heroic with her short hair, but her cold face contrasts with it, and she has a strange beauty. It's so beautiful. Yuan Bei just praised. When he saw Yuan Xiaopeng turned his head and gave him a cold look, his fingers moved together, and he typed quickly. A new message suddenly appeared in the barrage. Bloodwing demon god, young lady, my wife, hold back. Yuan Bei. He looked carefully again and found that there were quite a lot of barrage in this video. Secretly take the young lady away. Tears. My wife, miss sister, my wife, everyone, draw your sword. I was at the scene, the one who was kicked to death was me. Ugh. Yuan Bei touched the little fat man lightly, and stretched out a thumb. Your wife is amazing. Yuan Xiaopeng was stunned. But she's mine now. Are you still human? Yuan Xiaopeng's words seemed to be squeezed out of his throat. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Adopt a brother for 1,000 days, use a brother for a while. Night. In his own room, Yuan Bei sat quietly at the table studying alone. The matter of awakening did not come to fruition in the end, because I didn't want to put too much pressure on my parents. To put it bluntly, it is still a matter of money. Awakening early is a good thing and a bad thing. For those with a good family background, awakening early is a great thing. But for people from poorer families, it is not necessarily the case. Supplements cost money, weapons cost money, and genetic warfare learning also costs money. There is no place that does not cost money. Looks like real geniuses, they are players with extremely high sensitivity to universal source force and talents. Even if it costs money, it is bound to improve quickly. But her family knows her own affairs, and Yuan Bei herself doesn't know how much her level will cost. Although Zhang Peng has already agreed to the sleep assistant, the matter has not come to an end after all, and I don't know what will go wrong. Yuan Bei still likes to share the confirmed things with others as good news. Yuan Xiaopeng sat on the bed, holding his mobile phone and didn't know what he was looking at, and his small mouth was a little sighing. I didn't look at his wives this time, I'm afraid they will become my brothers again. I also saw a ghost. Yuan Xiaopeng looked at Yuan Bei who was studying, and said it was not surprising but it was fake. He hadn't seen his brother reading a book a few times, and he seemed to have changed suddenly in the past 2 days. Getting up early to run and staying up late to study made him feel a little strange. "Xiao Peng, are you still not sleeping?" Yuan Bei suddenly turned his head and asked at this time. Yuan Xiaopeng was stunned, looked at the time, and refused. "It's only past 8 o'clock, so I'm not sleepy." "No, you're sleepy." Saying so, falling into a deep sleep was activated instantly. Seeing Yuan Xiaopeng fell into a deep sleep again, Yuan Bei also looked at the attributes contentedly. Skill experience +1, but looking at the 5000 experience bars, I don't know how long it will take to level up. Today, I was preoccupied with making money, and Yuan Xiaopeng only used it 3 times this time. Added 3 points of experience. If a person provides a little experience, that's 5000 people. How can so many people let me sleep? No, how could so many people be slept by me? No, why does this sound a bit strange? But these are not important. It seems that tomorrow will be more useful, and he will be promoted to the silver rank as soon as possible. He also wants to see what kind of changes will be made when he reaches the silver rank, which is already such a powerful skill at the bronze rank. Yuan Bei is still looking forward to the fact that he can sleep with whoever he wants. Go forward, cover Yuan Xiaopeng with a quilt, and turn off the phone. At this time, the page on the mobile phone attracted Yuan Bei's attention, so he couldn't help taking it over to take a closer look. The League of Awakeners under the age of 20 in the West is starting. The annual Western Awakened League will be held in Wu City on May 28. As long as you are under the age of 20, you will have the opportunity to participate. This league will be carried out in the form of a team competition. 5 people form a team to compete with talents from all over the West. The rewards are generous. The top 3 teams will receive 5 million, 3 million, and 1 million cash rewards. The champion will also get the golden level mysterious gene core provided by the gene core structure. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and sign up. Next, the following is a registration link. This report with some accompanying pictures made Yuan Bei's blood boil, especially after seeing the rewards. Good guy. Is money worthless in this world or what? Just such a competition, the rewards are so rich? 5 million, even if he worked all his life, he wouldn't be able to earn that much. Back when Zhang Peng said that a sleep assistant can easily earn hundreds of thousands a month, he should have thought of it. As an awakened profession, it is not very difficult to make money. But his blood boiled for a while, and Yuan Bei turned off his phone. Although there are still more than 2 months left, and he also has a skill in his hand, his current level is probably a food delivery player. What's more, it's a team competition. Are you kidding me? Where do you want Yuan Bei to find someone as outstanding as him? Or for nothing to say all night? The next morning, at 5:30, Yuan Bei got up again. Last night, on a whim, he used deep sleep on himself before going to sleep. As a result, he was not spared, and fell asleep in an instant. The effect is really good. Yuan Bei stretched energetically and sighed. He slept very late yesterday and thought he would not be able to wake up today, but the effect of deep sleep was unexpectedly good. A magical skill to improve efficiency. After all, according to scientific research, a person only needs 4 hours of deep sleep a day is enough to maintain a full day of energy. And most people sleep in light sleep, so they need 8 hours of sleep. Here and there, it is equivalent to 4 hours longer than others. Bottom berth. Yuan Xiaopeng was still in a deep sleep, like a dead pig. He didn't know what dream he had, and he mumbled something in his sleep. Take your wallet. I don't know if the little fat man finished his homework yesterday. He only remembered it before going to bed yesterday, but after looking at the time, he finally decided to let the little fat man go back to sleep. After all, an older brother always loves a younger brother. Yuan Bei was still a little curious about what he dreamed about, and silently called out of the system in his heart. Host, Yuan Bei race, human gene, 36 parties, 2/10, gene lock, not open skill, deep sleep bronze, 4/5000, skill description, when the target is unprepared, it can quickly enter a deep sleep not signed in. Putting this matter aside, Yuan Bei thought. Sign in. Drib. Sign in successfully. Drawing +1 ready to start the lucky draw. Just about to draw the lottery directly, but looking at Yuan Xiaopeng who was sleeping like a pig, Yuan Bei still endured it. Yuan Bei first ran to the bathroom to wash his hands, then walked to the bed and bowed to Yuan Zioxi who was still sleeping. Stretched out his clean hand, solemnly placed it on Yuan Xiaopeng's head, stroked it lightly, and Yuan Bei murmured in his heart, "Take some luck." After enough foreplay, Yuan Bei had a thought, draw a lottery. Countless roulette-like objects passed before his eyes, and then stopped abruptly. Experience +10. Yuan Bei was about to be disappointed when the electronic tone sounded again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting experience crit. Crit x2. Experience +20. Yuan Bei was stunned on the spot. He lowered his head and took a deep look at Yuan Xiaopeng, who was still sleeping soundly, with complicated eyes. Shen, the stone hammer. Another glance at the system. Experience value display, 20 points. Yuan Bei got up, and worshipped the of worship again. Turn out to be. Yuan Xiaopeng is my biggest cheat. It was another hour of long-distance running, and the experience value increased by 1 point again, and came to 36 squares, 3/10. According to this speed, there will be another 3 days. His gene value can reach 37 squares. It's not a lot. Yuan Bei is not a cultivation genius after all. I'm afraid his sensitivity to source power is very low, otherwise he wouldn't be at the bottom. Although Yuan Bei is not satisfied with this speed, it is acceptable for him to see progress every day. The so-called hard work can make up for one's weakness. Can't make up, money can make up for clumsiness. 100 days. I hope I can find a better way of cultivation in the future, or I can get a useful item. Yuan Bei thought to himself. There are not many items in the prize pool, the highest level is still no more than bronze, and the winning rate is also very cheating. It turned out that he didn't even dare to think about it. After all, he was not a chieftain. But now that Yuan Xiaopeng is the lucky buff, you can think about it. Such a thick thigh, he must hug it. After thinking about it, Yuan Bei still couldn't hold back, and tapped the and sign immediately after 36, 3/10, 7 times in a row. The body trembled slightly. It seems that the mental head is full again. At this time, his gene value also reached 37 squares, but his experience value also increased accordingly. Gene, 37 parties, 0/15, experience, 13 points is enough. Yuan Bei secretly said in his heart that the cultural class, which was the most troublesome thing for him, has now become the least worrying thing. You can go up by directly using experience points. Back home after breakfast, Yuan's father and Yuan's mother also went to work early today. Yuan Xiaopeng packed up and rushed to school. Yuan Xiaopeng was a little dazed. He didn't sleep well last night. Didi, who ran all night in his dream, was a very important reason. The car didn't run, and was busy reminding passengers to take away their wallets, and added a WeChat chat from time to time to refund customers who had an extra zero in their transfers. Who can resist this? Aren't these people brainless in the car? Yuan Xiaopeng was angry all night. On the other hand, it was because Yuan Bei had been looking at him with a smile all morning at the dining table, and from time to time, he would give him a bun or something. Eat more, don't be hungry. Brother thought about it yesterday and think what you said makes sense. An ordinary thin person can't remember anyone. We won't lose weight anymore. Yuan Bei looked at Yuan Xiaopeng with a smile, his eyes seemed to be looking at an extremely thick thigh. Take care of your younger brother for 1,000 days, use your younger brother for a while. The contract has been issued, Please rest assured to collect it. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Didn't sleep well in class? School. Just arrived in the classroom. I saw Zhongpeng waving on the table. Yuan Bei, I went back and discussed it with my parents. What result? I'm sure it's okay to shoot. Zhongpeng said confidently, come home with me today and meet my parents. Become. Yuan Bei nodded, more or less agitated in his heart, then, sleep. Yuan Bei was about to use falling deeply into sleep for him, but he saw Zhongpeng calmly took out a book from the desk. You want to study? Yuan Bei asked in surprise. Okay. Zhongpeng nodded. People have a great influence on each other. Seeing that Yuan Bei has started to study, Zhongpeng also felt that it would not be a problem for him to sleep like this. Good. Yuan Bei nodded, and casually activated falling deeply on Liang's Hejia, the squad leader in the front row, and happily harvested a wave of experience. There is probably such a person in every class. They will always casually tell everyone before the exam, oh, I've been too busy to play these days, and I forgot to review. Tell everyone after the exam, oh, it's over, I don't know many questions, and I'm confused about all the multiple choice questions. After the results came out, tell everyone, oh, I failed this exam. The results. Look at the results. 98 points. First in the class. So a group of students who got 60 or 70 points in the exam silently took the papers and walked away. Xiu's scalp was numb, and they cursed in their hearts, old yin dog. Liang's Hejia is such a person. And intensified, very annoying. Okay. Yuan Bei was shown several times. Seeing Liang's Hejia's boom on the table, Yuan Bei picked up the book with confidence. Skill experience +1 beautiful. Zhongpeng looked up, did not speak, and silently praised Yuan Bei. The class bell rings. The first period is the class of Yang Hengmei, the head teacher. She habitually glanced at the last row, and saw Yuan Bei and Zhongpeng sitting at the same table, each holding a book there, and smiled coldly in her heart. Pretentious. The two brothers have been from the first year of high school to the present. She said without joking that she rarely sees them awake, and she doesn't know what they do every day. When they come, they fall asleep. Then it's not going to school, it's pure sleep. Now in the third year of high school, the college entrance examination is about to take place. Are you stressed? Do you know you worked hard? What did you do earlier? It's good to have the time to read books and exercise to prepare for moving bricks in the future. Thinking in this way, she turned her attention to the few students in the class who had the opportunity to take the heavy course. Although number 1 middle school is said to be a key high school, Lake City is only a county-level city after all. Not to mention that class 2 is not considered a key class, so students with high genetic values and good academic performance are really rare. Sweeping over those people, Yang Hengmei thought to herself. They are all weights for her to judge her job title in the future. Sudden. She focused her eyes on Liang's Hejia in the front row. This monitor, who never had to worry about her, was sleeping today? This kid must have learned too late yesterday, right? Yang Hengmei walked to Liang's Hejia with gentle eyes, and gently pushed him. Okay. No response? Sleeping so dead? In this way, Yang Hengmei softened her mind, this kid is really working hard. If the whole class is full of such students, what super title is she still worried about? Didn't that thing get rated while lying down? It took a little more effort to wake Liang's Hejia up. Did you study too late yesterday, and you should be more energetic, class is over. Yang Hengmei said softly, if you are really sleepy, just stand for a while, and then sit down when you are no longer sleepy. Liang's Hejia was a little confused. What's going on? Did I lie to my desk mate just now that I went to bed when I got back at 9 o'clock yesterday? Why did you fall asleep in the blink of an eye? Although in fact I studied until 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday, isn't this a slap in the face? Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Yang, I'm a little too tired today. Liang's Hejia still reacted quickly, and said to Yang Hongmei with some embarrassment. It's okay, then let's start class. Yang Hongmei smiled, turned around and walked up to the podium. Students, turn the book to page 56. Today we will talk about. Yuan Bei happened to have just finished a unit of physics. When he saw this situation, he was not happy at the time. This is your fault, Mr. Yang. Knowing that the monitor learned so late last night, he insisted on calling the monitor up. Is this plausible? Squad leader has developed morally, intellectually, physically, aesthetically, and laboriously. His grades are number 1 in his class, and his genetic value is also among the best in school. What's wrong with taking a nap in class? Is it too much? Yuan Bei was very angry at the time, and while complaining about the injustice, he gave Liang's Hejia another deep sleep. Skill experience +1. Seeing the squad leader slamming his head on the table again with a boom, Yuan Bei felt relieved. Squad leader! You sleep yours. Let me see who dares to disturb your sleep. Hold the book and read it. Liang's Hejia made a loud noise, and almost everyone in the class saw it. Yang Hongmei. This kid is really hard-working. Liang's Hejia's tablemate signaled that she was about to wake Liang's Hejia up, but Yang Hongmei shook her head and said with understanding, forget it, I guess he learned too late yesterday, let him sleep for a while. The tablemate just gave up. Yuan Bei has nothing to regret, after all, no matter what happens, he can't catch a sheep and keep pulling its wool. Host, Yuan Bei Race, Human Genes, 2837 Parties, 0/15, Gene Lock, Not Open Skill, Deep Sleep Bronze, 6/5000, plus Experience, 13. Looking at the attributes, the experience value has increased by 2 points as expected. However, the corresponding blue bar is also missing 10 squares, but Yuan Bei has done experiments, and the genetic value basically restores 1 square every 5 minutes. Compared to his current low genetic value, it is fast, but it will be too slow when it costs 300 to 500 square meters in the future. Yuan Bei thought, after all, he still couldn't absorb the source power on his own, so it was relatively slow. Presumably after the gene lock is turned on, recovery should be much faster. Zhang Peng, who was sitting by the side, was a little at a loss. Although he decided to study and his foundation is not bad, it is still very difficult to learn. The dead horse treated Yuan Bei as a living horse doctor. Zhang Peng was shocked. Yuan Bei actually understood everything? What's the situation? After asking several questions in a row, Zhang Peng was even more surprised when he saw Yuan Bei's unchanging answers, and the way he looked at Yuan Bei became strange. Is this still the brother who surfs the internet with him every day? It was agreed to be a trick to learn from the strong online, but you quietly learned the ternary linear equation? Could it be to catch up on sleep during the day and study by yourself at night? Thinking of this, Zhang Peng was shocked. Is this Sol Yang's Hejia? Yuan Bei looked at Zhang Peng's face, and explained lightly, don't get me wrong, I just have a strong learning ability. High school mathematics, hey, it's actually quite simple. Zhang Peng's face turned dark when he heard this, and he almost suffered internal injuries. Listen, do you think someone said it? Is this human language? We both go to the same school? Turn around and continue reading, today he is not going to talk to Yuan Bei anymore. 3 minutes later. Zhang Peng licked his face and turned his head, Brother Bei, take a look, how do you do this question? Yuan Bei wasn't impatient, and explained it to Zhang Peng again in detail. This is where the strength of the experience value lies. He has basically mastered high school mathematics, not to mention being better than the old teacher, at least it can be regarded as simple and easy to understand. Zhang Peng's mind is not stupid, and his foundation is not bad. After Yuan Bei said this, he understood. 5 minutes later. Seeing that the cooldown time of the skill is good, Yuan Bei looked for the next lucky person again. Soon, he saw a scumbag who was playing with his mobile phone, and he was lowering his head. Didn't sleep well in class and played with mobile phones? Did your parents send you to school to play with your mobile phone? One falling deep in sleep was thrown over, sending him a good dream. Skill experience value +1. Again the morning passed like this. While studying, Yuan Bei answered some simple questions for Zhang Peng from time to time. The 13point experience has indeed lasted a little longer, and he is about to finish his physics book. But unfortunately, in the end, the students in the class basically fell asleep. Many of them fell asleep on their own, and Yuan Bei didn't exert any force at all. Unable to do so, Yuan Bei had no choice but to catch the scumbag in the front row to pluck the wool by himself. The method was probably to wake him up with one kick and then instantly activate deep sleep. Let him have a "I never woke up" illusion. Very exciting. Yuan Bei felt that if it wasn't for his sharp eyesight and quick hands, he would not be able to escape today's beating. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Don't ask. Asking means you have no money. When the school bell rang at noon, the experience value of falling asleep also reached 11/5000 points. There is still a long way to go before upgrading. Call Zhang Peng, and the two are going to eat in the cafeteria. Passing by the first row, he saw Yang Hejia still sleeping hard. The teachers have a great tolerance for the class leader who is the first in the class but still forgets to eat and sleep. Therefore, although Yang Hejia has been sleeping all morning, not only has he not been criticized, but he has been praised a lot. Look at the monitor, he must have stayed up late to study last night. Let him sleep a little longer, his grades are so good, and he still works so hard. If you can get the results of Yang Hejia, I will let you sleep freely. If you work half as hard as Yang Hejia, I don't have to worry about it. Etc., etc. The psychological shadow of the top students in the class is infinite, wishing I could sleep on my stomach and be praised or something. Stopping, Yuan Bei patted Liang Hejia who was still sleeping, and Liang Hejia woke up with a dazed expression. Looking at the half-empty classroom, 3 philosophical questions emerged in my mind: who I am? Where am I? Why did I fall asleep again? Yuan Bei stood aside, looking like a good friend, patted Liang Hejia on the shoulder and said with concern. Squad leader, don't work too hard. You must have stayed up late to study yesterday, right? Go to bed early and get up early, it's not good for your health. Zhang Peng stood aside with a dazed face. And this kind of operation? Why did it show off? Although Yang Hejia was still a little dazed, his mind was still clear. His face changed at that moment. He waved his hands and said with a smile, "Hi. Do you think I look like someone who stays up late to study? I stayed up late yesterday to play games, and I forgot to do my homework, and someone else copied it this morning." Yuan Bei. He almost couldn't hold it back at that time, and another sleep deeply threw it over. Why is this person not telling the truth? Is this operational? Zhang Peng stood quietly beside him without speaking. But he looked at Liang Hejia as if he was looking at a fool, and he was tisk-tisk in his heart. Look at your deadly look. Yuan Bei paused, then patted Liang Hejia on the shoulder again. Said seriously, "I'll just say it. They all say you stay up late to study, I don't believe it at all. Others don't understand you, how can I not understand you? Are you a study person? It's funny." When the school bell rang in the afternoon, Liang Hejia woke up from the table again in a daze. Looking at the students who were packing their school bags, 3 philosophical questions once again appeared in his mind: who I am? Where am I? Why did I fall asleep again? Several low school students also woke up from the table one after another. Head full of question marks? I slept all day? Yuan Bei packed his school bag calmly, hiding his achievements and fame, and opened the property panel. Host, Yuan-Bei race, human genes, 22/37 parties, 0/15, gene lock, not open skill, deep sleep bronze, 16/5000, plus experience, 0. Another wave of leaks was harvested in the afternoon, experience value +5. This is quite flattering. Originally, he was going to tease Liang's Hejia, but the squad leader might have had a good night's sleep, so he left first, which made Yuan-Bei very regretful. Followed Zhang Peng out of the school gate. At noon today, I have already greeted my family, saying that I will go to Zhang Peng's house, and I will go back later in the evening. Both parents didn't say anything, they just told him to be careful. I was planning to buy something to take with me. After all, it's not good to come in and go in empty-handed. But touched the remaining $2 in his pocket. Forget it, I'm just a high school student. Comforting himself in this way, the two of Yuan-Bei took the bus and came all the way to Fuhua Road. This area is home to more than half of the high-end residential areas in Lake City, and it is also commonly known as a wealthy area. Walked along the road for a while, swiped the card to enter the community, and after a while, came to a villa with a single family. Arrived. Zhang Peng pointed, "This is my home." Yuan-Bei opened his mouth. Although he knew that Zhang Peng's family was indeed rich, he was not quite sure exactly how it was. But looking at the Zhang family, which covers an area fully covered by a basketball court, Yuan-Bei fell silent. After hesitating for a while, he couldn't help but ask, Why did we come here by bus?" "Do not ask." There was a hint of poverty in Zhang Peng's eyes. "If you ask, you have no money, and if you ask about suicide, poor support." Yuan-Bei still couldn't hold back. After all, he paid for the bus fare just now. "What do you think?" Zhang Peng asked back. "I have to go to internet cafes to rent a room when I go online." Yuan-Bei. The two of them didn't stay at the door either, they followed Zhang Peng to the door. Yuan-Bei also came to Zhang Peng's house for the first time, and somehow he was a little nervous. After knocking on the door, it didn't take long before the door opened, and the person who opened the door was a woman in her 50s, with an amiable appearance and a very kind face. "Xiao Peng is back? This is your friend, right?" Zhang Peng nodded. "Aunt Zhang, is my mother back? This is the nanny of the Zhang family, and I think it is true. In such a big house, it is impossible for Zhang's father and Zhang mother to do everything by themselves. I haven't come back yet, but Miss is back and is now in the training ground." "My sister is back!" Zhang Peng exclaimed, his face immediately turned bitter, and his whole body looked like an eggplant beaten by frost. "Well, I also told you to go to the training ground to find her when you come back." Aunt Zhang teased with a smile on her face. "Now," Zhang Peng said with a bitter face. Yuan-Bei stood aside and didn't speak, but his expression was a little strange. "I never heard that Zhang Peng has a sister." "Well, hurry up, Miss Care is angry again. Aunt Zhang reminded me." Zhang Peng had no choice but to walk in with a bitter face. Yuan-Bei and Grandma Lu seemed to have entered the Grand View Garden, looking left and right. The mansion is different from the magnificence he imagined. The whole decoration style tends to be dark colors, dark wooden floors, and some porcelain calligraphy and paintings are hung on the walls. There is nothing eye-catching, but there is a sense of heavy atmosphere. The furnishings in the house are orderly everywhere, but they are more or less serious. It can be seen that Zhang's father should be a restrained person. Yuan-Bei took a few glances, then looked away, and handed the things in his hand to Aunt Zhang, and Zhang Peng led Yuan-Bei inside. "Go to a place like a porch, where there is a staircase leading to the ground. The practice room is underground." Zhang Peng explained casually, and then took a deep breath, walking down step by step, as if he was about to go to the execution ground to die. Bang bang bang! Walking on the stairs, Yuan-Bei heard a series of heavy blows coming from the ground. Under the stairs is a two-door door, made of unknown wood. It looks very heavy. Zhang Peng stepped forward and opened the door directly. Immediately, the eyes suddenly opened up. The entire practice room was completely exposed to Yuan Bei's eyes. It is more appropriate to call it a practice field rather than a practice room. The entire lower part of the villa was hollowed out, which was about the size of a basketball court, and all kinds of equipment were lined up in it, while the four sides and the top were fixed with solid alloy, and the pale silver metal shone with a cold light. Yuan Bei couldn't care less about lamenting how rich the Zhang family was, because at this moment, he was already attracted by a beautiful figure walking in the practice field. Isn't this the woman in the video Xiao Peng watched yesterday? Only one night has passed, and Yuan Bei is not so forgetful. I saw a woman wearing a strong suit, with a cold face, like a phantom, shuttling back and forth among the sandbags hanging upside down on the training ground, and her legs were like scimitars and seemed to be in countless inconceivable angles. Like a giant hammer, there was a violent sound of piercing through the air, and it hit the sandbag hard. In just a few seconds, it seemed that dozens of kicks were kicked out. Yuan Bei couldn't even see clearly, and could only rely on the constantly shaking sandbags to determine her position. Bang bang bang! The continuous heavy muffled sound kept ringing. And the sandbag was 2 or 3 meters high, and weighed at least 700 to 800 catties, but it was still lifted up high by the whip, and then fell heavily. While shaking back and forth, a small area of upside-down sandbags was left behind. The gap below is even smaller. But this does not affect the woman in the slightest. She can often avoid those shaking sandbags within a fraction of a millimeter, and deliver another fatal blow. Good, so strong. Yuan Bei couldn't help clicking his tongue. When watching the video before, he was too concerned about his face and legs. Now that he is at the scene, he can feel the strength of it even more. Is this still a human? The sound of the long legs tearing through the air made his heart tremble. If he hit someone, he would die suddenly on the spot. Of course strong. Zhang Peng's tone was filled with strange pride. She has already unlocked 3 gene locks. Yuan Bei clicked his tongue again. How old is your sister? 1 year older than me. Siblings. Yuan Bei was taken aback. This is too far away, right? There is only 1 year difference. 1 gene lock has not been opened, and 1 has opened 3. Siblings. Zhang Peng looked loveless. What can he do? He is also very desperate. With such a powerful sister, I don't want to work hard at all, so I have to surf the internet every day to find fish, and after becoming a salted fish, I will inherit the family property. Status changed. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Zhang's father and Zhang's mother came back. At some point, Zhang Peng's sister had already walked in front of the two of them. Her forehead was sweating slightly, and her face was still cold, but after a burst of outbursts, her face was a little rosy. Instead of looking embarrassed, she became more delicate and beautiful, like a flower blooming against the dew. Is he the early awakener that the parents said? As she spoke, she looked at Yuan Bei who was standing aside and asked. Yuan Bei nodded slightly as a greeting. Zhang Peng nodded and said, well, sister, why are you back? There is a task. Zhang Zener glanced at Zhang Peng with a strange expression, and there seemed to be some deep meaning in it. Zhang Peng didn't see it, and was secretly happy in his heart. If you have a task, you should rest at home for 2 days before going back to school, right? Zhang Zener glanced up and down at Zhang Peng again, her eyes were sharp. Why haven't you changed your clothes yet? Have you completed the task I set for you before I left? At this time, Zhang Peng was still wearing a school uniform, which was very loose, and it was indeed not suitable for cultivation. Zhang Peng laughed dryly, almost. In fact, he has been patronizing the top score during this time, so he doesn't remember the practice. With such a strong sister, just hug your thighs tightly. What is cultivation? Zhang Zener stared at him with beautiful eyes. If eyes were swords, then Zhang Peng was already dead. Change your clothes, let me see if you have improved. Zhang Peng. Ah! If you want to hit me, you want to hit me. What does it mean to see if I'm making progress? Zhang Peng sighed deeply, said something to Yuan Bei, then turned his head and went upstairs with heavy steps. Only two people were left staring at each other. Silence. The atmosphere gradually became awkward. If Yuan Bei was put together with a greasy man in his 30s or 40s, he would be able to talk nonsense for a long time, but if he put a girl in her 20s with a youthful and beautiful girl who was bubbling with beauty, he would be a little at a loss for words. But you can't just keep silent. After holding back for a long time, Yuan Bei suddenly said, "This training ground cost a lot of money, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yuan Bei wanted to slap himself. What is this question? It is also good to ask about hobbies. Even if you like to sing and dance basketball rap? He can also chat with others about lipstick, you are so beautiful. But what I didn't expect was that Zhang Zener lowered her head and thought for a while, then raised her head, and said to Yuan Bei with a serious face, "Don't think about things you can't get." Yuan Bei? Yuan Bei was dumbfounded. Are you serious with your serious expression? Are you too good at chatting? Topic stopper? The scene suddenly fell into silence again. Yuan Bei really didn't know what to say. I was afraid that I would be hurt by this kind of straightforward sarcasm again, but fortunately, Zhang Peng came back after changing clothes at this moment, and Yuan Bei quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Soon, Zhang Peng began to exercise under Zhang Zener's urging, 350 kilograms bench press, lifting and walking ducks, punching sandbags, and spurs from Zhang Zener's own sister. Seeing that Zhang Peng's face was flushed, and the veins in his neck were bulging all the time, just like a husky, he had to bear the whip legs from his sister from time to time, but he still persisted. Yuan Bei was silent. He just quietly tried the bench press, but he couldn't lift it at all. Press him like a mountain. Zhang Peng made dozens of them with ease. This gap is extremely obvious. Although Zhang Peng has always given the impression that he is out of tune, in some respects, he is extremely hard-working. Just like now, you can tell by the way he is still hitting the sandbag madly with his veins. I don't know if I thought the sandbag was his sister. Yuan Bei thought secretly. He remembered the last time he saw Zhang Peng working so hard, it was when the two of them had to stay for 7 days in order to get out of the bronze pit. In just half an hour, Yuan Bei had seen that because of a mistake, Zhang Zener beat Zhang Peng several times with the whip leg, and the face of Zhang Peng, a big man who was about 1.8 meters tall, was blackened. Pain. But the effect is also significant. In just half an hour, Zhang Peng was already sweating profusely. Yuan Bei didn't have a deep feeling before, but after looking closely now, he realized that Zhang Peng's height should be almost 1.9 meters. At this time, he was shirtless, and although his body was red from being whipped, it was still hard to hide the hard muscles on his body. Every time he punched, the muscles on his body seemed to be knotted together, and the strength that erupted seemed to be amazing. But, why does this product always give me a weak feeling? Yuan Bei was also puzzled. Logically speaking, as a frail and sick player from the 37th party, he himself is actually the real weak chicken. It should be seen that everyone is a big shot. With Zhang Peng's body type, no one would believe that he is a weak chicken. After all, he is also ranked first in school. He is the right way to open it, like a younger brother by the side. But always getting together, he would always have the illusion of "I seem to be better than this guy," which is also a ghost. Both siblings were exercising, and no one paid attention to Yuan Bei for a while. After trying the equipment a few times, they stopped trying. It seems that everything here is adjusted according to Zhang Peng's standards, and he can't even play well with his current physical fitness. He is not suitable for this kind of exercise. Then run. After warming up, Yuan-bei began to run around the entire practice field. While running, he quietly observed the system properties. It wasn't until he ran for about 40 minutes at a leisurely pace, when his mouth was dry and his lungs seemed to be on fire, that he saw that behind the attribute bar of 37 squares, 1/15, there was only one more experience point. Without a break, Yuan-bei prepared to continue running. He wanted to try to see if he could gain another 1 point of experience when he was extremely tired. Xiner, Xiaopeng, your parents are back, take a bath and eat first. At this time, Aunt Zhang came to the door and shouted. Yuan-bei had no choice but to give up. It was Zhang Peng, who had been persevering just now. Hearing this, he quickly lay down on the ground, looking like a salted fish. It made Yuan-bei wonder if it was a fake before. Yuan-bei, do you take a bath? Zhang Peng asked over there. Yuan-bei shook his head. This is the first time he came to visit someone's house. It always feels weird to take a bath before the owner sees him. Well, I won't wash it either. Zhang Peng walked over slowly, threw a towel for him, Yuan-bei wiped his sweat, and the three of them stepped forward and walked all the way to the restaurant. The table has not been served yet, and there are two people sitting, a man and a woman. The male's skeleton is broad and not angry, with the temperament of some superiors, sitting upright like a big clock, and meticulous with a bit of military temperament. The woman's complexion is gentle and elegant. Although she is over 50 years old, she is well maintained, with a fair complexion and no less charm. It is Zhang's father and Zhang's mother. Zhang's mother, Yuan-bei, has seen it before. Although Zhang Tiangang has never seen it, the introduction is omitted. Hello uncle and aunt, I'm bothering you today. Yuan-bei was the first to bow down to say hello. What are you bothering me about? This is the first time Xiaopeng brings a friend home. Don't be restrained. I have something to do with the company today. Your aunt and I came back late. Zhang Tiangang was bold by nature, waved his hand and smiled. Zhang's mother also looked at him curiously, wanting to see what this genius who made Zhang Peng full of praise last night looked like. Polite, young and mature, this is Zhang's mother's first impression. Is this how you entertain guests? After several people sat down, Zhang Tiangang looked at his son and daughter frowning. I was very relieved and a little angry. My daughter was a first-class genius. She was recommended to be admitted by the first military academy when she was a sophomore in high school. Although she didn't know what she had done, the straightforward and concise style of a soldier still made him guess, he must have walked his old path. Now even she can't see through her strength. Zhang Peng, don't mention it. But this strength belongs to strength. How can there be a saying that when a guest comes, go to exercise by yourself and throw the guest aside? I will verify Xiao Peng's current strength. Zhang Zener replied indifferently, and threw the pot method that fell from the sky directly to Zhang Peng. It's okay, uncle, my physical fitness is too poor, and I happened to exercise for a while. Yuan-bei hurriedly opened his mouth to explain. Zhang Tiangang nodded approvingly, and cast a glance at Zhang Peng. Look at others, how humble. People who can wake up early, how can their physical fitness be poor? I must have said that to excuse Zhang Peng. Zhang Peng was a little puzzled. Why are you staring at me? Yuan-bei is telling the truth, his physical fitness is poor. On the dinner table. It is suitable for the guest of honor to have a meal. Yuan-bei is more than 40 years old in his 2 lifetimes. Not to mention being good at dancing, but he can always be articulate. Chatting on the table from time to time is not a problem. This made Zhang Tiangang and his wife very happy. At their age, they are in their 50s, and they are almost busy with their careers. It is very difficult to go up, and it is not much worse if they go down. Stabilizing the career is the primary goal. As soon as I am free, before I reach the age of retirement and when I have passed the hard work, the focus will naturally be on the family. But now the daughter is not at home all year round, and the son is very naughty. Sometimes it is difficult to communicate, and the dinner table is often reserved for few words. It is rare to meet a young man at such an age who can chat. Especially because he knows a lot, he can catch up with anything, and seems to speak in a logical manner in all aspects, unlike ordinary young people who are eloquent and nonsense. They naturally don't know that Yuan Bei has a thinking that is 8 years ahead of this era. Of course, the trajectory of the world has changed, so it goes without saying how much water there has been in these 8 years. Yuan Bei is also very happy to eat. The existence of the dimensional world not only draws out the source force, but also has more delicacies from the dimensional world. Needless to say how many dimensional worlds there are more than 900 kinds of skill inlay options in Battle Alliance alone, which also means the existence of more than 900 different beasts. There are various types, but there are not many types that can be regarded as food. Because these ingredients are generally expensive and scarce in quantity, they have extremely high nutritional value and more or less contain some source power in them, which are of great benefit to the body. Ordinary families couldn't afford it at all, at least Yuan Bei hadn't eaten it before. The meal is almost finished. Just when Zhang Peng was about to talk about the sleep assistant, Zhang Zener spoke suddenly. End of this chapter.